Why is the Suez Canal so important? Since its completion in 1869, the water strip has remained one of the most important in the world, simply because it is a route that connects the East and the West. This canal has been the reason for signed treaties and potential war between countries. The importance of the Suez was brought to light once again after a Japanese container ship, the Evergreen, got stuck along the passageway and blocked other vessels from moving across the canal. In this video, we will reveal to you the key reasons why the Suez Canal is so important and what it means for global trade. A giant container ship called the Evergreen got stuck along Egypt's Suez Canal with several attempts to dislodge it failing. To prevent a global economic crisis, the president of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, ordered officials to lighten the ship by removing some of the containers it was carrying, after which several tugboats were used to pull the vessel out of the spot where it got stuck. This move proved to be successful after almost a week of several failed attempts. The 220,000-ton vessel, now headed for the Great Bitter Lake, caused a traffic jam along the canal, with vessels numbering more than 150 loaded with oil, automotive parts, and other cargo not able to pass through. The fear that the Evergreen would remain stuck for weeks threatened global trade and brought to the fore the importance of the canal to global commerce. If you don't know much about the Suez Canal, here are some important historical and current facts for you. The Suez Canal is located in Egypt, and it connects the Suez port in the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean to the east. Vessels who ply this route pass through the southern city of Suez by the Red Sea. The Suez Canal allows shops to connect east to west and vice versa without the need to travel down to the south of Africa. This strip of water cuts down voyage times by several days or weeks. Ships passing through the Suez only spend between 13 and 15 hours to cover the journey because there are no traffic interruptions along the route. The canal was an idea conceived by French investors when Egypt was still under Ottoman rule during the middle of the 19th century. By 1859, construction began to build Port Said, and excavation took about 10 years to complete. The project also required as much as 1.5 million workers to complete. According to Suez Canal authorities, the canal was initially owned by French investors, and 20,000 peasants were recruited every 10 months to work under extremely harsh circumstances to get the job done. They were poorly paid, and many of them died of cholera and other viral diseases. Furthermore, political tumult led against the colonial rule of the French and the British slowed down the progress of the project and doubled the initial projected cost of $50 million, which runs into billions of dollars in today's value. The British controlled the canal during World War I and II. After a series of negotiations with the Egyptian government, Britain withdrew its occupational force from the canal in 1956, thereby relinquishing its right to Egypt under the late President Gamal Abdel Nasser. To better understand why the canal is so important even to this day, you have to look no further than the events of 1956, soon after the British gave up their right to the canal. Soon after the British left the canal to Egypt, President Gamal Nasser nationalized the canal and took certain radical steps to curtail the passage of vessels that the government deemed a security threat to Egyptian sovereignty. This move threatened the economy of Israel and its Western allies. In the same year, the British, French, and Israelis mobilized for war. The canal was briefly closed, and the situation increased the possibility of a global clash between the Russians and the United States. The crisis ended in 1957 after an agreement was signed between concerned parties in a deal supervised by the United Nations. The outcome of the deal was favorable to Egypt and signified a period of triumph for Egypt as a sovereign state. After 1957, Egypt closed the canal for 10 years after the Arab-Israeli War of 1967. During this period, the Suez Waterway was a line demarcating Egyptian and Israeli forces, and 14 vessels called the Yellow Fleet could not get out of the Suez until Anwar Sadat called to an end of the hostilities and open up the canal. The Evergreen is not the first vessel to be stuck in the canal. In 2004, a Russian vessel transporting oil caused a shutdown of the canal for 3 days, which begs the question, is the Suez Canal meant to handle heavy cargo vessels? It depends on who you ask. The canal was initially constructed for small vessels, but it has been widened on several occasions. The last one caused more than $8 billion to expand so that larger vessels can pass through. The Evergreen is one of the largest container vessels in the world. Such large ships run the risk of running aground if they pass through the canal when the tide is low. Experts believe that the vessel got stuck because of poor visibility and high winds, which pushed it off course. Now that you know a little bit of history about the Suez Canal, let's highlight some of the key reasons reasons why this strip continues to play an all-important role in global trade. About 12% of global trade passes through the canal annually. Ships coming from Asia connect Europe via the Suez Canal and vice versa. This 120-mile water strip is the shortest possible route between Asia and Europe. If ships were to take the Cape of Good Hope at the tip of Africa, such a voyage will take at least 2 weeks. A blockade of the canal cost global trade $9.6 billion every 24 hours. That's about $400 million an hour. No waterway anywhere in the world attracts such a financial value. The effect on the Egyptian economy is also felt significantly. The government of Egypt earns about $14 million worth of revenue daily, so you can understand what a blockade will do to the economy. Many countries in Far East Asia do not have petroleum and gas deposits, so they buy from their Middle Eastern neighbors, Africa and Eastern Europe. The same can be said about Western countries that buy oil and gas from the Middle East. A significant percentage of oil and gas supply passes through the Suez. A blockage will cause the economy of many countries dependent on imported oil to collapse. Even exporting countries will feel the strain of a blockage as they will not earn revenue from oil and gas sales. In war-torn countries like Syria, petroleum rationing was already being affected during the first few days of the blockage caused by the Ever Given. The price of goods and services rose by epic proportions due to the week-long crisis in the Suez. Another very important reason why the Suez Canal is so important is down to the fact that investors and other nations would have developed an alternative route if there was one. Sadly, such a route does not exist. If not for the Red Sea that stretches from the Horn of Africa and all the way along Egypt and Sudan, navigators would have no other means to connect Europe and the Asia-Pacific directly. Furthermore, no landmass with a narrow topography will support the kind of excavation work done on the Suez Canal. An average of 19,000 vessels plies the Suez Canal every year, transporting cargo from the east to the west and back. The importance of the canal to the world economy cannot be wished away, as so many industries depend on the tiny strip of water to cut down voyage times between one half of the globe and the other half. Let us know what you think by dropping a comment below. Also, kindly subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos. Thanks for watching.